A momentous day in the nation's capital.
It'll be the start of a new era in Washington and this country.
Right hand and repeat after me.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
President Trump is defending a temporary travel ban after a weekend of angry demonstrations.
The advisor Michael Flynn has resigned tonight.
What he did wasn't wrong. I have a running war with the media. Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated. Anybody ever hear of NAFTA?
Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike.
I will not allow the mistakes of recent decades past to define the course of our future. Just think about what we can accomplish in the first 100 days. This is my first stop, officially. We're not talking about the balls, and we're not talking about even the speeches.
We saw the new president go to the CIA, stand in front of the wall where there are stars memorializing martyred CIA agents, talking about the misleading press, talking about the fact that his inaugural crowd must have been at least 1 million people.
I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1 million, 1.5 million people.
And then later that day,
Good evening.
Sean Spicer, in his first formal briefing, carts out these photographs that are designed to show that, in fact, the crowd size estimates had been all wrong.
These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong.
An utterly unnecessary controversy, one in which all of the available evidence showed that he was wrong, and yet he wouldn't let go and wouldn't let go. And I think, in a sense, that set a tone for where we've gone since.
Welcome to your fourth day. We will not go.
Gave alternative facts.
Immediate construction of a border wall.
This administration is going to be an attack on everybody.
This is going to be an unconventional presidency.
3 to 5 million illegal votes.
Well, we're going to find out. Secondly, I'm establishing new vetting measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States.
The travel ban was the culmination of Trump's entire campaign.
We knew he wanted to do this. We knew it was controversial. He started out on Pearl Harbor Day in 2015 saying Donald J. Trump
is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
It's big stuff.
The people in the White House who didn't have a lot of experience wanted to do something fast, wanted to do something dramatic.
Protesters gather outside of New York's JFK Airport right now.
As a result, it was not drafted in a way that could withstand scrutiny by the judicial system.
What we've shown today is that the courts can work.
It came a little bit as a surprise that something that was very important to him was stopped immediately by a single judge.
Courts seem to be so political.
I find that the court should and will grant the temporary restraining order.
That travel ban was really a moment that showed people just how much power he has as president. He can determine who comes in and out of this country. And I think it was kind of that moment that people realized he wasn't just joking about some of these campaign promises.
Unbelievable.
Another top White House official in hot water this morning.
Leader of the NSC, retired Army General Michael Flynn, has come under increasing criticism.
Michael Flynn was a confidant to the president throughout the campaign.
At the Republican convention, he's leading chants of
Lock her up. That's right.
Flynn is rewarded for this with a plum job. He's named Trump's national security advisor. It only lasts 24 days.
President Trump's national security advisor resigned.
But because he had lied to the president and the vice president.
I asked for his resignation. He respectfully gave it.
I think the White House thought that questions about Flynn would end when he left the White House, and they haven't at all.
General Flynn is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media. I want to find a friendly reporter.
The President of the United States.
His first address to Congress was a case where, for once, he followed the script.
Make America great again.
The nationalism, the conservatism, it was all there. It was just delivered in a more presidential fashion.
He became President of the United States in that moment.
president has been busy on Twitter this morning. A series of tweets where he accuses President Obama of wiretapping Trump Tower.
The president doesn't indicate any source for this information.
Whatever goodwill he generated out of that speech was quickly lost by the side controversy he created.
I have no information that supports those tweets, and we have looked carefully inside the FBI.
There was no evidence to support that allegation, but it was a reflection of a sense of paranoia and concern that the president felt that he was being unfairly targeted as a result of this Russia probe.
When did you first learn that Sessions spoke to the Russian ambassador? Did you know during the campaign? I don't think you should do that at all. When were you aware that he spoke?
Those tweets about accusing President Obama of wiretapping his phones at Trump Tower came right after there was the controversy about Jeff Sessions, the new Attorney General, who had not, during his confirmation hearings, owned up to the fact that he had had one serious meeting and another encounter with the Russian ambassador.
Therefore, I have recused myself in the matters that deal with the Trump campaign.
There have long been all of these connections between the Trump campaign and with Russia, and there's never really been a full explanation of why.
Amazing.
It hangs over this Trump presidency like a cloud. And there is an ongoing FBI investigation as well as 2 congressional investigations into whether there are ties, more substantial ties, between the Trump campaign and Russia.
As all these questions about Russia and whether or not it influenced our elections have risen, Donald Trump has so personalized them. He sees them as a challenge of his own legitimacy, the legitimacy of his election.
You remember the famous line, there is no path to 270. Well,
there's no question that if you're an administration that is having to deal with the kinds of things that Donald Trump has created unnecessarily, it is a diversion. It is taxing. There's only so much that an administration or a White House can do at once. I mean, the repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act is a huge undertaking.
We have come up with a solution that's really, I think, very good.
Once he got into office and set about tackling this major campaign promise, there wasn't much of a plan there. They relied very heavily on Republicans on the Hill who had drafted legislation.
This is the American Health Care Act.
The plan that was put together by Speaker Ryan seemed to have been done without kind of taking the temperature of his own House Republican conference.
My next guest called it Obamacare 2.0.
I have concerns about the Medicaid expansion.
And almost immediately they were getting resistance from moderates who are concerned that in their districts people like their Obamacare and want to keep it, and from the most ardent conservatives who want to totally destroy it, rip it up, and start all over.
President Trump saw a deal that he could close, a health care bill that seemed like it had support in both the House and the Senate.
Do not have the votes right now.
Are they going to delay the vote to get you guys on board?
I doubt it.
But President Trump had to brace for the reality that the Republican Party was much more splintered than he may have thought.
High drama in our nation's capital.
There will be no vote on health care today.
I spoke to the president just a little while ago, and I told him that the best thing I think to do is to pull this bill, and he agreed with that decision.
When I spoke to the president when the health care bill collapsed, he called me and he said, Bob, there's so much anger within the House GOP.
I never said repeal it and replace it within 64 days.
The president, in threatening these members, was met with the same kind of resistance that any president in the past of either party has received when they go up to Capitol Hill and threaten lawmakers. Lawmakers kind of recoil and go, you don't tell me what to do.
Figure out how to move forward. So what comes next, though? Do you think more different legislation, different...
Big developing story here in Washington this morning. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee is stepping aside from
an executive order erasing many of former President Obama's climate change regulation.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to set up a key procedural vote.
There's a majority vote on all nominations.
Dozens of people are reported dead in Syria following a suspected chemical attack.
We warn you, some of this video, it's graphic, it's disturbing.
Outrage over these scenes of horror and suffering in Syria.
Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched.
His decision to bomb an airfield in Syria after Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons against civilians in that country was really a complete reversal from his position well before the campaign, when he strenuously advised President Obama not to go into Syria, thinking that it would drag the United States into a broader war. But what seemed to happen for Trump is that he realized that when you're president, it's very difficult to sort of allow those kinds of actions to happen on the world stage without some sort of response.
So something should happen. Thanks, folks.
He's trying to sort of maintain the bravado and the big talk that sort of carried him and helped him win the election. But at the same time, he's been confronted with reality in a lot of ways.
And so even as we in this country are trying to figure out what to make of this president and this presidency, our allies overseas are trying to do so as well. And by the way, some of our adversaries are looking at how to test this president. How Trump handles a very dangerous world may in the end be how his presidency is measured.
President Trump unveiling what the White House is calling the biggest tax cut in American history.
Is that right? No administration has accomplished more in the first 90 days. That includes on military, on the border, on trade.
If you measure it just in terms of what's been done legislatively, he does not have anything of note that he can put up on the board. In other areas, I think you could say he has made some progress.
Are you ready, Justice Gorsuch, to take the oath?
Neil Gorsuch stands as a keystone achievement and the fulfillment of a big campaign promise.
I truly believe that the first 100 days of my administration has been just about the most successful in our country's history.
You know, the people who supported him are really happy to see him doing many of the things that he promised he would.
Ultimately, he'll be judged the way all presidents are judged. What's the state of the economy? What's the state of our national security?
The wall's going to get built, folks.
How much are we divided as a people? What's the state of the government's fiscal situation? I mean, all of those are things that you can't judge in 100 days or even 200 days. As you look forward, those are the things that you have to ask, well, what's he really accomplished?